I think it's important for the Brewers to get that number one seed. They're closing in on it. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Exciting couple of weeks. More than that, like how about a month's worth of baseball left, right, for the Brewers? I'm not ready for this thing to end in a couple of weeks. Hey, everybody, Chuck Freimund. Good to have you along. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Proud host of Locked On Brewers, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. I got one on set today. I got the, let's see what I got today. I got the sour apple. Normally, I am the cherry. I always go with the extra strength. You need that little extra kick in the afternoon or whatever. 5 Hour Energy shots the way to go. Go to 5hourenergy.com. Go to Amazon. I buy them in bulk on Amazon, and that always, the prices, you get better prices on Amazon. I don't mean to plug Amazon, but I'm telling you, I buy these in bulk, and they're always there. But you get them in stores and wherever you want. All right, coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about the importance of getting that number one seed and where everything stands right now. Brewers do have some decisions to make as far as pitching and roster. I'm going to kind of tell you some of the things I see with the Milwaukee Brewers in that direction. And the great Quinn pitches tonight. Quinn Priester, the Brewers just win. They just win, baby, when that guy's on the mound. By the way, I'm doing this from a hotel room. Appreciate it. And tomorrow, Sunday night, we'll be back in the Locked On Brewers studios. But implementing this on the road, and of course, Brewers postseason will be doing this on the road as well. But the top seed is so important. Here's how it would stand right now. In the National League, the Brewers and Phillies would get the top 2 seeds. The Brewers would get the 1 seed. The Phillies would get the 2 seed. The Brewers would play the winner of the Cubs versus Padres, right? They'd play the winner of the Cubs versus the Padres. The Cubs would have the 4 seed right now. The Padres would have the 5 seed. And the Dodgers and Mets, the Dodgers would have the 3 seed, the Mets would have the 6 seed, would play each other in the other half of that bracket. And they would play, the Dodgers and Mets would play the Phillies, Brewers would play the Cubs and Padres. And I really believe, I think the Dodgers would come out of that and they'll play the Phillies in a second round playoff series. The Cubs and Padres, Brewers can beat either one of those teams. And obviously, they could lose to either one of those teams. But I don't even want to talk about that. But I would rather play. I think it would just be so cool for the Brewers and Cubs to play in a postseason game for the first time ever. Game 163 a few years ago, that's considered regular season. Some people think that's a postseason game. No, that's considered an additional regular season game that they played in 2018. When the Brewers went down there and beat Jose Quintana and the Cubs in game 163, one of my favorite days ever of being a Brewers fan. But it's important. I think the Brewers need to get this number 1 seed. The Brewers have a 2.5 game lead on the Phillies in the standings, but it's really 3.5 because they have the tiebreaker over the Phillies. They won the season series from them 4-2, even though the Phillies had won 2 of 3 last time they were in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago. Remember, the Brewers had swept the Phillies out in Philadelphia earlier in the season in a 3-game set. So the Brewers have a 4-2, a series advantage on the Phillies. And so a 2.5 game lead is actually a 3.5. And that's good because I think even though the Dodgers have shown some complacency, I believe I really do, and some entitlement here in the summer, I would rather play the winner of the Cubs and Padres series. Can the Brewers lose to any of these teams? Absolutely. You know how baseball works, right? I mean, we saw them lose to the Mets the first round. We saw them lose to Arizona 2 years ago in the first round. But I think it's so important, and it's going to happen. The Brewers are going to get a first-round bye in the postseason, and they would actually play 2 weeks from Saturday, a home game at AmFam Field. Obviously, we don't know the game time, but it'd be 2 weeks from Saturday. They'd play on a Saturday and a Monday, those first 2 games of the divisional series. So that's I would love to have that. You know, these magic numbers that get thrown around, I don't really get too much into it. I don't. I just look at the standings and I figure it out from there. The magic number, you know, we've been counting. I feel like we've been counting it down forever. I just look at it too. I want to see the Brewers playing some good baseball going into the postseason. And I look at them, I'm never one of these guys to say, well, if the Brewers play 500 baseball and this team does this, well, the Brewers can still get in. I worry about the Brewers. I not worry about them, but I just want them to play. And they're playing about 500 baseball since that 14-game winning streak. They've won the last 2 against the Angels, but playing good baseball, getting everybody healthy, and selecting your roster for the postseason, and who is going to be on that postseason roster and who is going to be off that postseason roster, and what are your options? What are your options? But it's just the postseason is here, and I'm ready for a long run. It's here in 2 weeks. Brewers got some celebrating to do, obviously, when they win the division title, and then hopefully a few more of those along the way. But I want to talk about some of this, what I want to see in the postseason. Now, here's what I feel happens with some teams. I feel like they overthink it. In all sports, I feel like sometimes teams get to the postseason and they overthink things. Murphy brought this up yesterday. He goes, well, without anybody asking him, he goes, there's a theory out there that, this kind of brand of baseball that we're playing can't transcend to the postseason. I say to that, BS to that. How come you can go through a 162-game schedule and this can't work in the postseason? And that's the first thing people are going to say if this team bows out early. This level of brand, not enough power. How can you win that way? The woodpecker baseball, where you get base hit, strong defense. I don't know about you, but I love the fact that this team is so good defensively, and I don't mind a team stringing together 4 or 5 hits. Why can't you do this in the postseason? And this team does have enough guys that could jack one on this team, I think. Terang and Frelick, all of 5-7 apiece. Those guys got double-digit home runs on the season. Frelick hit a 3-run blast last night. So, not worried about. They had some postseason home runs last year against the Mets. It's about scoring runs, manufacturing runs, getting runs, and putting pressure on the defense. Putting pressure on other teams. That's how this team wins. Putting pressure on other teams and taking advantage of teams' stupid mistakes. And that's what happens. Another team, the opponent walks the leadoff batter. The Brewers make them pay. An error to start the inning. The Brewers open it up to a big inning. The Brewers put up so many crooked innings. And this is something they had not done under Craig Counsell, right? I mean, there are not a lot of crooked innings there. But I feel like the Brewers do this with Murphy. They see a little hole, and they run right through it. Somebody gives them a little break, like an error or a leadoff walk in the inning, and the Brewers are off and running. That's going to happen in the postseason, especially you put pressure on these teams now. You put pressure on defenses. What happens in the postseason when pressure is even amped up a little further? Yeah, this type of baseball, I really think can translate into the postseason. I don't want to hear that. No, the Brewers are doing it at a very high level. They're not just getting into the playoffs. My goodness, they're just rolling right now. They've had a marvelous season. There's no reason why a team that's on the verge of 100 wins can't play this type of baseball in the postseason and you get W's, right? I think the last couple of years, though, they've that short series, avoid that. If they can't win a divisional series, a longer series than the divisional series, then this is on them. All right, but they need to do it. They got to get it done. All right, some thoughts here on some of the positions. Now that we've, we're down here in the final couple of games, here's what I think needs to happen. The first base job into the postseason, I think that's Andrew Vaughn's, right? Now, what the Brewers have been doing, for the last 2 weeks, they've been platooning there at first base with Vaughn and Bowers has been hitting well. That's why it started that Pittsburgh series a couple of weekends ago. And since then, Bowers and Vaughn are platooning over at first base, and Hoskins is the odd man out. Now, to start the season, if this was starting just out of spring training, Hoskins would have been the starter. And if Vaughn was on this roster, Bowers, one of those two guys would have been down in the minor leagues. right? Or maybe both. Who knows? Well, one of them would have been on the roster. But Vaughn is your first baseman. And I get it. Yeah, Bauers had the big home run in the postseason last year, and they're going to continue to platoon. Now, Vaughn isn't hitting home runs like he did earlier in the season, and he's still getting base hits, and he's still producing. He's still a threat at the plate. This feeling that Vaughn has dipped off. Vaughn just, when he got on this roster, when they called him up from AAA, I mean, he was Ted Williams up there. So, yeah, he's dipped off a little bit from that because no one's going to stay that hot. But I still like him at first base, and I like him as my first baseman going forward. All right, so Vaughn and Bauers are probably going to platoon. I'd love to see Vaughn get all those at-bats, but that's the way they're going to go. Terang is going to be your starting second baseman. I think there's no shocker in there. Ortiz, you're starting shortstop. Somebody asked me about Monasterio. Should Monasterio play some shortstop? I love the fact that Monasterio's on this team. I've always liked it. He's proven more and more that he's a guy you can really count on. Really, really count on, especially in clutch moments. I mean, he's had some walk-offs this year. He's had a walk-off, and he had that 3-run home run in Cincinnati earlier in August. But he's a guy coming off the bench, pinch hitter, can play any position for you, and you feel confident with Monasterio at the plate, right? I do. Durbin over at third base. I'm glad we got away from that platooning, and Durbin is the everyday third baseman now. Keep him over at third base. Don't ever take him out of the lineup. Durbin every day at third baseman. Okay. At the third base spot. So Vaughn, Terang, Ortiz, Durbin, Monasterio, utility guy, and God forbid there be an injury. You have a solid guy there to turn to with Monasterio, and hopefully, and I'm sure he's going to get some at bats. He's going to find his way into the lineup somehow. The outfield situation. I'm going to get to the outfield situation right now. The Brewers are doing something right now, which I'm not lately here, which I'm a little. Reinventing the wheel. Now is not the time to do that. We'll get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. I was telling you about FanDuel a little while ago. FanDuel is the way to go. You want a quick boost to your day, whether you're going on a golf course, doing a podcast in the afternoon, you name it, especially like afternoons, like after lunch, you get that little energy dip. 5-hour energy is the way to go. I take one in the morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling you, 5 hours kind of just turns like into a 10-hour energy shot. I just feel like it gives me momentum through the entire day. Great taste, tiny shot, and all sorts of different flavors. I told you I like the cherry flavor, but there's 12 different flavors, and you can get these at the store, at the convenience store, any store, your local store. Get them on Amazon where I get them. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love. Be bold. Try something new in-store, online. The banana watermelon is just fantastic. That's always a good option. The cherry's not at the store. I'll go for the banana watermelon. Tasty as well. 5hourenergy.com or visit Amazon today for 5-Hour Energy. Terrific sponsor here of Locked On Brewers. Part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. It's a part of the show where I always tell you where you get our podcast. Those of you guys who are watching us on YouTube, there's an audio version of this. Sir, you could put YouTube, patch it into your car and all that and listen. But there's also audio platforms. Wherever you download podcast, we're the #1 Brewers podcast on the internet. Just go to any one of the platforms out there, Google, Spotify, Apple, search Locked On Brewers. We're on all of them, and you'll find it. Please subscribe, get an alert there. It'll let you know every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. And those of you who are on the audio, come to our YouTube studio, Locked On Brewers. Today we're doing it from a hotel room, but normally we're from the studio with all our Brewers memorabilia in back. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. We are here every day talking Brewers baseball with you. And next month in postseason action, we'll be here every day, Monday through Sunday, as long as the Brewers are alive, and the Brewers are going to be making a deep run. Right? One thing the Brewers are doing right now I don't like is that Collins has been sitting lately. Now, I don't want to hear this, that Collins is taking the wrong path on a few balls, okay? I want Collins in my lineup. I like Perkins, and he had a big night last night on Wednesday night. But the guy is hitting .217. He gives you gold glove outfield defensively. But Collins, when he comes to the plate, I feel great every time he comes to the plate. Clutch hitter, so many clutch hits this year. Walk-off hits. Collins should never be on that bench. Can get it done from both sides of the plate. Nick Collins. Former Packers safety about 15 years ago. Collins is the guy we want out in left field. Perkins, defensive replacement if you need one, but the Brewers don't really need any defensive replacements. All those guys are gold glove caliber defenses. Look at the Brewers Stratomatic card. Stratomatic. I was looking at those last night, and I mean, everybody's in one, which is the highest defense you can get. I mean, they're just amazing. Everybody but Hoskins over at first base. But Perkins, they've been giving him some run in the outfield, but in the postseason, don't be reinventing the wheel. Collins has helped us get to this point. Yeah, Perkins has been a big part of it and coming up with clutch hits, but Collins is our guy. There's a reason why he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. Get him in the lineup every day. For 2 days now. Get him in. Get him in. Other than that, I want Collins in left field every game. Chourio, put him in center. I know we feel comfortable with him in left, but Chourio, a nice diving catch the other day. I'll take Chourio in center field because of his amazing bat, and he's not bad defensively. And, of course, Frieimund is going to get you everything in right field, right? He's going to do everything, and the arm is there, and just Frieimund is never take – I don't ever want to see Frieimund ever have a day off in the postseason. None of these guys. With them every day. Contreras behind the plate. Contreras has been getting like every 3 days off or so, and they've been going Danny Jansen behind the plate. And that's the key, obviously, because Contreras can't catch every day. But we get to the postseason, I want William back there every day. I want William back there every day catching because my DH is going to be Yelich every day. Yelich is going to be my DH every day. Yeah, if you want to work him in to an outfield spot once in a while, I guess. But Yelich has got to be the everyday DH. Contreras has got to be catching every day. It's the postseason. All right. There's days off here and there. Contreras, did you see the picture of his finger the other day? That's what he's playing with, Contreras. What a warrior this guy is. Going out there, doesn't want days off. That hand would a lot of guys out there, major leaguers, would be shutting it down at this point. Even if their team is in the postseason, they'd be shutting it down, going on the injured list, calling it a day, not even being with the team. Not William. You know, we saw what a gamer William was last year when he walked into Murphy's office before a game and said, man, I want to be in the lineup today. I don't care if it's a day game. I want to be in the lineup. I like that. The Brewers have a bunch of guys like that. Just winners. Dinner last night, I was talking about our team. I was asked why is this team so good? Because they are winners, gamers. It's like a college attitude on that team. You could feel it in the locker room. Murphy is a college coach by trade, and this team never mails it in. Never mails it in. Yeah, if they lose, it's not because of a lack of effort. It never is. And that's what I like about these guys. Even when they clinch, we will see this team go hard in the just playing out the string of the regular season. That's what these guys are made of, and that's why we should love this team. Some thoughts on the starting rotation for the Brewers. We're going to talk a little bit about the starting rotation and who should start games 1, 2, and 3. To me, it's quite clear, but we'll get to that next. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. You want to know where your money's spent? Well, Monarch Money is going to tell you, in our household, we spend too much money going out to eat. You know how we know that? Well, we kind of had an idea, but Monarch Money really solidified that notion that, you know what, you guys go out to eat too much. Monarch Money is a all-in-one personal finance tool. Brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop, your phone. You're going to plug in all your details and everything, and it's going to tell you, hey, you go out to eat too much. You spend too much money going to the movies. You spend too much money going to sports. It'll never say you spend too much money watching Locked On Brewers because all our content is free. But right now, go to monarchmoney.com, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Do it in your browser. You're going to half off your first year. It's an all-in-one financial control center, personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy way to go. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401, properties, investments, but you'll have that complete picture on Monarch Money right now. Go to monarchmoney.com, half off your first year, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Down the stretch we come here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. This polo I've had this for like 20 years. I don't know why I haven't worn it a lot, but still fits good, still fresh. It's been like sitting in my closet for 20 years. That rotation that the Brewers are going to use, I think there's no doubt of, in my mind, who it should be for a three-game set. Peralta should go in game one, Woodruff in game two, and Priester in game three. Now, Woodruff pitched last night. There's some concern, I think, that he's only pitched twice in September. The velo was down a little bit. They gave him an extra day's rest. But the guy, 9 Ks over 5 innings. That's pretty impressive. He was still pretty impressive yesterday. Murphy has talked about all the trust that he has in Woodruff. I have a lot of trust in him. Smart guy. And he doesn't walk people, right? And that's where a lot of pitchers get themselves in trouble. Walking guys, doesn't do it. Woodruff, to me, number 2 starter. And I'm very comfortable with that on this 92-59 team. Priester has got to start game 3, right? Is there any doubt in that? I mean, you could say the Miz, Quintana, but it's Priester. It's Priester. He's got a club record winning streak going on. They win all the time, whether he gets credited with the win or not. He has just been great for these guys. The numbers have been there. Ground ball pitcher. I like Priester. I like what he's done, and he's been so good for this team. Priester has earned the 3rd start in a postseason game. Now, 4th start. If we got to get to that far, Quintana's going on the injured list. They're shutting him down for the rest of the regular season. That was a little odd to see that, because Quintana was up and running around, and there was a lot of sentiment that he was going to make a start Sunday in St. Louis. Now then they put him on the injured list. Like an hour or so after the media had talked to him, he said, he felt fine, ready to go. He's going to give it another test. I should make my start on Sunday. Then they put him on the injured list. They activated Mears. That was a little odd that they do that to Quintana. We'll see where he stands in the postseason roster. I would think he's going to be on the postseason roster, right? I don't know. DL Hall right now, I was counting on him to be on the postseason roster, but it sounds like he might be running out of time. The organization does not want DL Hall to not get any work in and then be on the postseason roster. They wanted him to get some work in before the postseason comes here, and that might be running out of time. So DL Hall just continues to be a question mark. Another big question mark. Megill is just not bouncing back from that flexor strain, and I knew it. I just had that funny feeling that it was going to be tough. There were some signs that he was bouncing back, but as Murphy said yesterday, we're disappointed, not in Megill, but that it's been tough on the recovery process for him. Need Megill in the postseason. Need Megill. think we feel good with Uribe, but I'd rather have, at this point, Uribe as my 8th inning guy and Megill as my 9th inning. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk more about that bullpen. But, yeah, I was a little when the news came out with about DL Hall possibly, if you can read between the lines, maybe not in this postseason roster, and Megill struggling to return to health. That's not a good sign right there. That's not a good sign. They have plenty of great arms still in that bullpen, and I still feel comfortable with that. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. All right, the Brewers do go for the sweep of the Angels. They're just mowing down the Angels in this series, right? They're just crushing these guys, feasting on bad pitching, and just rolling over these guys. And the Brewers are doing what they have to do, strong to the finish, as I always say, for the Milwaukee Brewers. And let's get that sweep of the series. The Cubs just swept the Pirates. The Cubs still stay, 4.5 back? But as long as the Brewers keep winning games, right? Cubs have won, I think, 4 in a row right now. I think 4 or 5 in a row. I was hoping Pittsburgh would get him yesterday, but the Cubs went through there and swept. Now, big series in Cincinnati between the Cubs and Reds, especially for the Reds who are trying to get in. I'm kind of pulling for the Reds to get into the postseason. I really am. That's going to do it. My name is Chuck Freimund. Thanks for tuning in. Locked On Brewers, thanks for making us your first listen to every day. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freimund, Freimund. You got a comment, you got a question, let me be your sounding board. Hit me on Twitter, Chuck Freimund, Freimund. We'll see you Friday afternoon, midday, the next edition of Locked On Brewers.